This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
Information Services, Brian, how may I help you? Good morning. Well, no. I believe that you're wanting Subaru of Portland. Yeah. No.
No, can I bring my car in for an oil change?
No. This is Information Services.
Yeah, I have some information about the oil change I need.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling.
Can I?
Hey, Brian.
And quite literally, everybody always does that too. They always say,
They want oil changes?
I have some information about said thing. So now I just cut them off completely and say,
My information needs serviced.
Computer information.
So, yeah, I told this story to Rich already, but it's funny you say that people ask for information about their Subaru. Because the other day, my daughter Emma ordered Domino's pizza. And she did it online. It was like she's having to sleep over with her friend, and she was like, they were super excited, and they ordered Domino's pizza. And she said, I'll just pay for it. Somebody will be about it, drop it off soon. And, like an hour and a half goes by. I'm like, where's your pizza, Emma? And she goes, well, I did put carry out on there because they carry it from their car to the door. And so I'm all like, oh,
She
honey,
wasn't wrong.
let's, it's the mind of a 14-year-old.
It is
Makes
their fault
sense to them.
using something that is very literal, and I agree.
That's a beautiful
They
thing.
carry it out to your house.
Carry out, not carry in. What if it said carry in? And she's all,
I don't know.
they
that'd
carry
be
into the house.
That'd be even closer. Yeah.
Walk in and pick up. They should have just used, instead of carry out, they should just use pickup.
Right. We probably should introduce who you are. You're just like a random Brian that we pulled off the street. We know a few Brians, so. But you're Brian Forster.
I am Brian Forster.
You're-
Everybody
yes.
needs a Brian.
Yes, and we have one. And you are the vocalist for 7 Second Circle. Before that, you were the vocalist for First Sleep.
Yeah.
And before that, you were the vocalist for Taxi Cab Floors. In
couple of other bands.
1947, right?
1948.
Oh, okay, yeah. I always get those dates mixed up.
I'm younger than that. So
Yeah. And that's back in the day.
that was way back in the day. That was back in the heyday of 90s Northwest rock golden era.
The golden era. See, that's the thing. That's the problem with life. We don't know when we're in the golden era.
Nope.
That is so true.
Yeah. It's like you have no idea when the best time of your life is.
No, the only thing that you know is that every single weekend a band that you like is playing somewhere within driving distance.
Yes.
And it just constant until it dries up and goes away, and then you realize I just went through an awesome era and I didn't go out enough.
It's like you fell asleep like what was the old guy against the tree that fell asleep?
Rumpelstiltskin.
That woke up, 100 years later? It's like you wake up a decade later and you go, wow, music sucks.
Yeah, but Rumpelstiltskin used to come to your guys' show.
He did.
The Santa Claus guy. But it was the Rumpelstiltskin who had woken up from the tree. So he already had the big long beard and he was rickety, but he would come to the shows and he would dance with all the ladies. All the ladies would dance with him.
He was infamous, and his name was Thom.
Yeah, Westside Station.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we also had, do you remember a guy named Henry? He was an older guy. He was probably in his mid-60s when he used to come and see us. And he would just sit there and listen to us, and he loved the ever-living crap out of us. He brought us, when we had a write-up in the paper here, he brought the paper and wanted us to sign it. Or it was just, it was strange. It's strange how music resonates with people. I think that's the beauty of everything that we've done. I think it's the beauty of everything that Henry's Child's done is there's never been, let's direct this at an audience. Let's do music that we enjoy. And if people like it, bonus. And then when it really resonates with people, it's a little strange. It's like you've been painting in your backyard or something and somebody walked by and just lost their mind about something that you've just created.
I still remember that one woman that came up to that show that we did downtown. I think it was the Brownstone or something like that. That was that was where the heavyset girl came up and tried to accost me up on stage. Well, not on stage, but on the taped off section of floor where we were playing. But there was
It's I think.
Oh, wait,
it's
no.
Public molestation, right?
it was it wasn't there. It was at the Black Forest, and there was some woman in there that was like in her 50s. Her and her husband had like come in
I resemble that.
obviously to the wrong bar, the wrong crowd, and it was like they came in and they heard us play, and after we played one song, I remember her just yelling over everybody else, just going like, "That is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I have never heard anything else like that before." And me just going like, "You don't listen to a lot of music," because most people would say, "Hey, you sound like said band, said band, said band." But yeah, she was just floor. And the fact that she was not really the demographic that we were going for really made me happy, just going like, sweet.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Black Forest, that must have been First Sleep.
That was, oh yeah, that was First Sleep. What? Yeah, First Sleep. First Sleep.
I know I said it really awkward, like I put the two words together. First Sleep.
When it comes to dates, I do really awful. My brain just doesn't workalize really well. And the only way that it works is if I correlate it to other things that happened in time where people can just go like, "Oh, okay, I know what day you're talking about."
So you need time date stamps.
I do. I need something that's close by that I can just go mark that and remember that.
So let's reel this all here. You got a quarter, Tom? Give me a quarter.
Yes, here's your quarter.
Thanks for the quarter. I'm going to put the quarter in right here, and we're going to put it in the time machine and go back.
Quarter time machine.
Quarter. We're going to go back a quarter of a century.
That's about right.
25 years in the past.
About a third of an adult male's lifespan in this country. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So it's what, 1994? It's got to be 94.
Something like that.
Yeah, because Thom wasn't in the band yet.
No, it was still
Original
Chris.
lineup. Yeah. Chris and Jeff.
Yep.
Henry's Child, we played up at the Stericon. We had not played Salem before. We played up the Stericon with Solace. Mm-hmm. Great guys, Salem guys. We just hit it off. And they're like, "You guys ever played Salem?" We're like, "No." "Want to play Salem?" "Yes." And they brought us into Salem. And Salem just kind of became like a second home. Mm-hmm. I don't know where in that little time frame, because boy, time is condensed back then. Whole bunches of things happen in a little bit of time. Westside Station.
Yep.
What a hot spot, right?
It was the first major outing place that would have my band at the time, Taxicab Floors, playing on a regular schedule.
Right.
It was actually just starting to culminate a lot of the bands from the local areas. And when I say that, it's just bands that I started to actually take notice of.
Right.
Like all the bands from Monmouth Independence area, because that's where Taxicab Floors hailed from, was Monmouth Independence. We had Tang of Pez. We had Simpy. Mm-hmm. And Tang of Pez was like the equivalent of the Primus band.
We actually played with them at Western Oregon University, which was kind of an interesting show.
Oh, yeah. I actually remember when you guys played over there, and I was trying to tell people, I go, "These guys are an amazing band. Where are all the people at?"
Yeah.
That was before internet and everything else, where you could just quickly go out and, what's this band? Look it up online, play a couple of their tracks, and then decide whether or not you want to go out and have the joy of discovering brand new music and seeing it live.
So there was also Time Killing Isabel.
Yeah.
Sun Tribe.
Except those, I don't know where those guys were from, but I remember
They're from Salem. But there were Salem
Sun
bands.
Tribe.
We used to play with Simpy a lot. Was Simpy from Independence?
Simpy was from Monmouth Independence. Okay. They were the at the time they were the Pearl Jam band, and every single show these guys did, just girls,
right?
Tons of girls. They had huge followings because everybody at the time loved Pearl Jam, because Pearl Jam was like the first band to make the cover of Life magazine and Time magazine.
Right.
And it's like unheard of things. And so these guys had that look. Young, good-looking guys, long hair, and they're up there and they're playing this music that sounds almost exactly like their favorite bands that they go out and purchase. Yeah, we did a lot of shows with them also. And then there was the Jason, who was the...
Jason Coleman?
Who ran the Westside, was the one that was gathering all these bands together and playing them there. And it was only through him that when we were talking to him, he goes, hey, I've got a band that I want you guys to open for on said date. And it was like, hey, that's a better time frame than 7:00 on Tuesday night, which was our regular thing. Every Tuesday night, you can
It's
come
Taxi
see
Cab
Taxi
Floors
Cab
night.
Floors. And it was funny because me and my bass player, Jared, who, not Jarrett, but Jared, he was only like 19.
Yeah.
And he could get into the bar all the time because his head's all the way shaved. He has a massive goatee sticking way down. And he looks like a rough and ornery kind of guy with a big biohazard tattoo on the side of his head. We're sitting up at the bar and we're drinking at the West Side. And all of a sudden, this guy just comes gallivanting in, and he's got a big white ruffly shirt and gray baggy pants and wearing Doc Martens, and he has a fucking black hat on, and he's coming in. He's hand shaking everybody and patting shoulders, and he's really getting intimate with everybody, just really engaging all of them, making lots of good eye contact and talking to everybody. And I just kind of like look over and I go back to my beer. And while I'm sitting there taking like a drag off my cigarette, somebody just goes, slaps me on the shoulder like that. And he goes, hey guys, what are you doing this weekend? And I like turn around and I look at him and I go, we're playing a show here. Really? We're playing a show here too. My band is called Henry's Child and we're going to be playing here. By the way, my name is Andy. Andy, hi, how's it going, guys? I don't even think Jared paid really any attention to him at all. He was just like, these guys are going to suck. Look at him.
He's also a 19-year-old in a bar. He's trying not to make any waves.
Well, no, that he had like the confidence. He just had the confidence, but he was just like, when he looked over, he like told me later on, he goes, a guy only had black boots on. Oh, and his black hat, but that's it. He goes, I guarantee these guys are going to just suck. They're going to come in and they're just going to be like hippie rock or something. It's just gonna suck, dude. And I go, no, it'll be fine.
I made up with all the black, right?
You were the one that was actually the ominous looking one when you came in. It was like,
all
black there
guitar.
You go. And then I was completely shocked because I told him, I said, well, we're Taxi Cab Floors. And he goes, hey, we're doing the show with you guys. All right. He's super excited, very happy, turns around, heads out the door. That was my first meeting with Andrew Smith. Was just a whirlwind of white fluffy shirts, long wispy blonde hair, a black bowler hat, and just smiles and handshakes. But I remember we went.
He was a baby. He would have kissed you.
It's true. He would just go like, mwah, mwah, mwah. Vote for me, vote for me. We went and we did the show. We played our set, which was primarily just all heavy stuff.
Oh yeah, you guys.
We pushed for, our band was very heavily influenced by, at the time, Metallica's Justice for All and Pantera and Bolt Thrower and just everything dark and ominous, just hands permanently transfixed into the devil horn position.
You had the Phil Anselmo hair. You had long hair shaved on the sides.
That was a trait of the band. When you came into the band, it was we all shaved our heads all the way around and left the crown up on top, which is now done by a whole different demographic now. But at the time, we had stolen that from when we saw Metallica playing Justice for All, and Jason Newsted went out there and was doing a bass solo. And while he was playing, we saw his hair when he would do his windmills.
You're like, what?
And we were just going like, wait a minute, he's bald underneath. Look at that. And my guitarist and I, we were like, I think we could do that. It would be real easy. We'll just shave up our heads And that's what we did. We started doing that around here. People thought that we were punk rockers with our mohawks down, but what we would actually do is at the Westside, before we'd get ready to go up, me and Jared and my buddy Tyke, who played guitar, who was also the co-founder, we would run off into the bathroom real quick, that nasty little bathroom that 2 people died in during the golden age. And we would stick our head underneath the faucet, get that hair nice and wet, because that way when you get up on stage, it gives you that more menacing, like Misfits persona.
Right.
And then when you do your headbanging or your windmills, the weight of the hair will be a lot better. And plus it flicks water on the audience and they love it, even though they
Nasty
don't realize
scalp water.
it's toilet water. After we did our set, I remember Henry's Child comes up on stage, and the very first thing that I did was just go, "Holy shit, Jeff Riley!" And he turns around, looks at me, and goes, "Forster!" Because the whole high school era thing is males don't refer to one another by your first name.
No, it's a surname only.
It's the last name.
Yeah.
I think you actually said at one time, it's the jock thing. It's a jock mentality, because I read your name off of back of your shirt. That is who you are. And I said, "Are you playing in this band?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm doing drums." And I go, "I remember you played drums in high school." And then I said, "All right." And we all sat back, and Jared is just looking at me like, "Watch. Just watch." You guys came out with the guitars are jangly, and I'm just kind of going like, I think he's going to be right. And the lights, I was just like, "Holy shit. Jason, where are all these lights when we play?" I didn't notice that we had any of these lights, and they're all sequenced to the music. And I go, "Oh, there's some other guy over there on the
Wes.
lights." Yeah, Wes. Andrew comes out, he starts singing, and then boom, it just hits. You guys pop it out of first, go straight into third, and it just hits, and you just saw everybody light up, and I just went like, "Oh, this is way different than what I thought it was." I had anticipated awful, and this is pretty great. And even Jared afterwards was eating crow. He was just like, "Yeah, it was. I only liked it when they got heavy." And I go, "They got heavy. They got heavy." That was the first real big door opener for Westside, was that night. And then having Jason telling me like the following night, "Hey, you need to hear these guys.
They're from Eugene too."
Yeah, and he slides me over this disc that's called Sync. And I was just like, "So the album's called Floater?" And he goes, No, they're called Floater." And I go, "Oh, I thought they were called Sync." I was going, "That's a really cool name for a band, Sync. I like that." I go, "I don't know about the Floater part, but I like Sync." Then there was Floater. Then there was, oh my God, Monster Zero, Village Idiot. Everybody started coming in. Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Jollymon.
Jollymon. Yeah.
We really got to give a nod
Thresher.
to
Oh my God, everybody
back when
just started
they were
coming in there.
they may have played there. Did they play there when they were 2 minutes 8?
Thresher was Thresher, because I just go like, this is going to be country rock.
Right.
Because I was thinking of a Thresher machine. And then those guys got up there, and I was just like, that's not country.
No, not at all.
That is the polar opposite of country.
I need to get a hold of Scott, because I would love to have Scott come in and talk, because we probably, in all honesty, we may have played more shows with Thresher than any other local band. Mm-hmm. We played a lot of shows with Thresher.
Well, they kind of synced up with your guys. Like you guys had the best of both worlds. You guys could get melodic. You guys could get heavy.
Yeah.
So you guys could play to both sides of the track. It's like, I don't really want to hear anything heavy tonight. Well, just wait.
Yeah.
They're gonna play something that you'll like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what really drove me towards what you guys were doing. And I remember being in practice with my band going like, we should try doing something that's a little more like the way the Eugene guys are doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody else in the band was just like, we're a metal band. We're a metal band.
Yeah.
We do metal. And I go, yeah, but we could probably try doing something a little softer. We don't have to get so hard and heavy.
Right.
And I go, like that Floater band and the and the Solace People, Crackdora. I even brought up Crackdora.
Crackdora, yeah.
And that was one that Jared really didn't like. He was just like, that guy in his mask, I don't know what it is. And I go, you just really, really don't like anything visual at all. He doesn't like anything visual.
It's the Patton Oswalt thing, right? Where it's silent, that one guy that has to yell out, right?
He's just like, He was he was very much like Cliff Burton from Metallica. Because you know, if Cliff Burton was still alive, Metallica would not sound what Metallica sounds like now.
Probably
unless
not.
he really liked, because he, I remember he was very, very, very heavy. No singing Nothing Else Matters. Let's not get soft and squishy here. The closest thing that they had was maybe like an instrumental.
Right.
That would get a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of like that tension resolve thing. It's like, let their eardrums rest and then just pound the shit out of it for the next 2.5 minutes.
Right. And then, of course, everything opened up and we became friends. And I remember you used to come up on stage and sing with, what were you singing? I Will or what?
No. I Will was the song that I was always calling out. That was that was my free bird.
Right.
That was my free bird for me. Just going like, I don't care what you guys do tonight, and I know that you already played it once before. I want you to play I Will again. No, it was Handguns and Chainsaws.
That's right.
Because this was back when you guys would be in the back room. You guys had like Magic the Gathering out, and I was just going like, we play Magic the Gathering. And then we would like go outside and we'd have cigarettes. And
we went, nerd.
But I remember we would hang out and we would see, all those shows became kind of like going to the playground with your friends. Even the regulars that you would see all the time, like Santa Claus. You'd always see Santa Claus there.
Yep.
You'd always see Andre there.
Always.
Always there. And then always the same people at the bar.
Yep.
The same people that you never, ever, ever learned any of their names. You just always look over and then you go, there's Dude and 2 other ladies.
Yep. And Jason.
Yeah, and Jason. And we would all hang out and chat it up and then go up and play. And then the great thing about having good friends and fans is that you've got roadies for after the show, because they'll...
Big James and
oh yeah,
we haven't really thought about it too much, but we should give Jason Coleman a big nod because he helped drive that scene.
I quite literally think that the whole Northwest scene, a lot of it for here in Salem was Jason.
Yeah,
and I just kept on going like, how do you find out about all these other bands that I've never ever heard of? And he said, these bands come in and they play, and if I like them, they say, I know these other guys. And then I would say, bring them in with you next time.
Right.
And he would start bringing down Portland guys, and he would start bringing Eugene over, and there were some people from Corvallis, and everybody started coming in.
Yep.
So you had like, it's a whole shotgun effect. You get a bunch of shit at times, but other times you get ones that just hit the mark.
Well, and the fact that we didn't know this because we were from Eugene, and we played, of course, a ton in Eugene, and we played a lot in Portland. So it was back and forth, and just we didn't know there was any place to play in Salem, and Salem is kind of renowned for that.
So going back to Jason, there really truly was a thread. So Rich, you're right on one level where like I remember bands would spend the night at his house. He would invite them over. I mean, it was kind of a thing. Brian, you're right as well on another level where he would like find these bands from other places and bring them in. But here's an interesting thread. A couple weeks ago, John Bolt, who started Elemental Records, came up for the Jollymon CD release show, and we sat down and had a podcast with him. And he spent his college years close to that time, a couple years before, in Independence, Monmouth.
Yeah.
And he also got those bands, and it's just how bizarre it was. Just word of mouth back then brought all these amazing things together. And that's when Northwest Ungrunge came out, because a handful of the bands you mentioned are on Northwest
Like Aggrobatch.
Ungrunge.
We've talked about Aggrobatch before.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Aggrobatch. That was one of my favorite bands to always see, especially like right right when skiing season was getting ready to open,
Yeah.
when they were opening the slopes, and they would always have their annual show. It's like, we're going to be gone, because they would be gone for the entire duration of ski season.
Yeah.
And then they would come back. I think the last time I ever saw them, at the Westside Station, they had put up a huge backdrop.
Yeah.
And it all went down onto the stage, and even the monitors had covers on it, so it looked like snow, and they had little pine trees everywhere. And behind them looked like the ski slopes of Bachelor or Mount Hood. They did their entire show, and it had like little people in the background slaloming on skis and everything. So it looked almost like an old Bible school flannograph of just like all these little flannel
Bible
pieces.
school flannograph. I love that.
just
I know
the
exactly
flannograph.
what you're
Yeah,
talking
I do
about.
too.
It's
The
the
little felt
flannograph.
things that they would put up.
And it looked exactly like that, only with 3 dudes playing some like just hardcore trio punk rock surfer music.
Right.
And they would like do that little song about Pagoa. He's like scrounging the beaches looking for puka shells to make a necklace for his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the little surfer boy, the little Hawaiian boy that goes out and tries to surf the biggest wave he can find. And I love those guys, Aggrobatch. I miss those guys.
Yeah. I mean, just that whole scene. Let's reverse a little bit. When did you first get into music?
That was my mom, because my mom, she always played. She played guitar. She sang. She was always singing like some covers. But then I'd always notice off in her guitar case, she had tons of loose paper just all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what these songs are. I've never heard of these. And then she goes, no, I made those songs. And I go, you made those songs. And then she goes, oh yeah, I just come up with melodies in my head and I put them down. And then the only thing I write down is just the words. That's it. All the other music's in my head. And I
Right.
go, oh, okay. And then I realize it's like, oh, you can make your own music. If you're creative enough, or if you actually put the effort forward, if you got a melody in your head, it's the same way as drawing. If you can take what's in your head and put it down on paper, or actually get it out of your head, it'll work that way. And so my mom was like listening to John Denver, Crystal Gale, Linda Ronstadt, just all that 70s.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm from the 70s, so if these bands date me, then that is why, because I was born in the 70s. I was listening to all this stuff, especially like John Denver. So my mom was big into John Denver. And so she would play that stuff all the time. And I kind of got into it. It wasn't until she met up with this one guy, because my mom was divorced. Then she met this one guy named Denny.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I had ever met him.
Yeah.
This was like back in the 70s. I think it was very close to it might have been like 79, because shortly after that, I remember we moved to Independence. I remember my mom said, my boyfriend is going to be coming to live with us. And I go, okay, I've never seen this guy before.
Right.
I'm a little hippie kid in Corvallis, Oregon.
Right.
And our TV is just a black and white with aerials. And I'm sitting there watching like PBS, and it's summertime. And I just remember the door is quite literally just like right there. It's off to my right. I'm sitting on the couch like this. You're the TV. The door just goes kunk, kunk, opens up like that. And the sun is actually going down right behind there. So light emanates in. It's this whole like cinematic thing. I turn around and I look, and there's this guy with red fro-ish hair. He's got big sideburns that go down into the mutton chops.
Hey, little dude.
He's got the white wife beater with the red trim, and he's wearing cut off jeans. He comes walking in, and he's got like mirrored Ray-Ban aviator glasses, because at the time he was working at Evergreen. He told me about big helicopters, but he's got this big milk crate with a bunch of albums in it. I remember he walks in, he looks at me, and he just goes, "Hey, Frog Eyes." And I was just like, I don't even know what that means. And this guy just comes walking in, and he like sets down the milk crate off to the side, and I see it's full of albums, and he goes, "I'll be right back, little man." Turns back out, goes back out, and comes back in with like 4 more crates full of albums. And the whole time I kept on thinking, that is amazing. That is absolutely, I had absolutely no idea that records could fit in a milk crate. It's just, it's perfect. And he brought in all these. He goes, if you want to look through those, you can. And I go, okay. And he goes, I'm going to go get my stereo, because we had a very small, crappy little stereo. He invested in his hardware.
Right.
So he brought in the much larger speakers that our little speakers would now sit on top of. And I remember going through, and I found ZZ Top's Fandango.
Yeah.
And I found Bachman Turner Overdrive, Blue Oyster Cult. I found this one album that would be my turning point that really had me confused. A gray album with a small square of a black and white photo of 4 gentlemen from New York City that are all wearing 3-piece suits all the way up, and their long black hair and their painted faces. And I go, what's this? And he goes, that's Kiss. That's Kiss. And I go, Dressed to Kill. Do they kill people? And he's just like,
With rock and roll.
I'm a very naive little kid. I had pretty much like every summer was going to like the country fair, which is nothing like the country fair.
No, it was
now.
the original country fair.
This was country fair where you drove out,
Very natural.
and you just kind of stopped when you found the other vehicles, and you wandered out in the woods, and there was naked people and people with loincloths and people wearing white, like just white cotton robes, not like
Tunics.
like a tunic,
Yeah.
just wandering around, and people gave like pita sandwiches out to people, pita just stuffed with avocados and sprouts.
Yeah.
That was it. But they were just like, hey, are you hungry? Here. And they'd hand out food. Music was quite literally like guitar and mandolin over here, some guy on a recorder over here. Yeah, and they had like a small stage, but this was 1970s,
Right.
and just a whole lot of naked people. The only way you could tell what you were looking at is if there was a Peter peeking out from the pubic hair, because it was just like it was true, because I would get confused because the women were really hairy, the men were really hairy. Not all the women had big boobs. Some of them were pretty small, and I go, that might be a guy with a really. But I was just like a little kid running around in my sandals. I was just running around in my sandals, and I would like just be like, yeah, this is normal. Yeah, he turned me on to Kiss, and I like listened to that, and I was just going like, I go, all right, this is wild, this is crazy. Years later, we would move to Independence in the 80s. I remember his car stereo, like the 8-track player, was hooked up to house speakers in the back.
Yeah.
Just loud speakers. And my best friend across the street, Tyke, he had kind of come up through that whole hippie farming community type thing also.
Yeah.
Heaviest thing that he had was like Snoopy versus the Red Baron on album, or he just had like that kind of music. His mom played, she played the pipe organ in the church. She actually played at the church that was here in town that has the pipes that go all the way around the entire inside. And she could like just sit in there. And so she was classically trained, but she taught the boys music. She tried
Start
teaching
going
me
into
music.
some Deep Purple, and
She taught Tyke how to play toccata and fugue on
Yeah.
guitar. So that was one of the things Tyke would do up on stage, was play toccata and fugue, but shred style.
right.
I remember Tyke hadn't really picked up playing guitar yet. Denny had just come home, summertime again, because it was very hot.
Right.
And he says, hey, come out and check out the new 8-track that I got. And so he pops it in, and he like cranks it up, and it's dun, 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 wow, wow, and it goes straight into Van Halen's Eruption.
Yeah.
And it's just, God, just the absolute
and Tyke was there?
speed. And Tyke's,
And you saw Tyke's
Tyke
mind
was
get
just
blown?
in the back seat. I remember Tyke was in the back seat like, this is way too loud. And I just turned around, I'm looking at him, and he hears the speed of the guitar and everything. And then when he goes into the hammer technique, we were both so absolutely confused that we were asking Denny, how many guys are playing guitar? And he goes, that's just one guy. And we were just like, that is impossible. And that is what set Tyke on his course to getting his first.
He was infected right then.
Yeah, he got his first Strat. Or no, it wasn't a Strat yet. He got the Strat knockoff, which was like something with a T. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, like all those other things. It's like you find something that looks like it,
right?
And then you get that. And he started practicing.
I can't buy that $700 guitar. This one's $100, and it looks the same.
And he had a small little amp, he had a guitar, and then I go, we should start making some music.
Yeah.
And so we did.
So you started on guitar too, though, right? You play guitar.
That wasn't until later on.
Oh, okay.
The funny thing was, like, when we started out, it was young guys really into metal, and we wanted to make something that, we've got microphones in front of us so we can say fuck if we want to in front of people. That would be awesome. Give a kid a microphone, guarantee he's going to say fuck within the first 4. And so,
is this thing on?
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so we started silly little joke songs.
Sure.
Little joke songs, kind of test the waters. And then we brought in our friend Chris, who played bass for us, and he actually knew how to play bass. And so we go, okay, we're getting closer. Now all we need is just a drummer. Let's go find a drummer. And we brought in our other friend, Jim, to come in and play drums. Turns out Jim said, I'll play drums. In the sense of, like, let me see, what's left over? Okay, I'll do that. And it's just like, oh, I need to know how to play the drums. So he came in, and when he was doing his drums, he would find whatever box was around or a suitcase
Wow.
and his knees, and he would do something like that and kind of figure it out. And it took a few years for him to finally kind of catch his groove. And then I remember at a time, he just, over one summer, he went and played off in some other band, came back.
And he could play.
He could whip it up. Yeah. But we started writing more and more serious stuff. We were still in school at the time. I think we were in our senior year at school. And
what was your name? What was the band's name at that time?
We didn't have a name yet, but then we came up with it because Tyke was watching Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And Egon, after they had just gotten covered with they got covered
ectoplasm.
No, they were covered with the marshmallow stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, Egon, you okay? And he goes, I feel like the floor of a taxi cab. And Tyke goes, taxi cab floors. That's what we're going to call ourselves, taxi cab floors. He goes, because it's dirty and it's grungy and just nasty. Yeah.
Absolutely genius.
Yeah, and I just sat there and I said, okay, because I was coming up with some real stinkers in my head. But we started doing that, and the music teacher at the school, the band teacher, loved the idea that we were doing music because Tyke was playing clarinet. Years before, I was doing drums in marching band, but I had given up on doing that. And he goes, hey, I want to hear what you guys have. And it's like, okay, come down to our studio. And he goes, no, come here to the school. We'll go into the band room, and you can set up in there. So we went and we set up in there, and we started playing our stuff. And then he would pull a total Jarrett. He would stop us. And he goes, okay. And he would go over to the dry board, and he starts writing all this stuff up like a syllabus, and he's writing everything down. He goes like, so this is what I hear you guys doing. He goes, let's change gears. I want you guys to start working on these 3 songs: Smoke on the Water, Back in the USSR, and third one I think we just kind of scrapped because we were focusing on those 2.
It was probably Bare Manilow or something.
And it was something that I was just like, that's not metal. But he worked with us to teach us how to play. He goes, you guys need to learn the fundamentals of rock and everything if you're going to be in a band. So do this, because he goes, your guys.
So he was your Jack Black.
Yeah, he was kind of our Jack Black. only he was serious about this, and
right.
He was very up forward about it. But he kind of taught us those 2 songs, and then he goes, from there, spread out. He goes, spread out and kind of learn your stuff. Those 2 songs were actually in our rotation for a while until we got rid of Back in the USSR. But we held on to Smoke on the Water because that's Deep Purple.
Of course.
So you got to hold on to that one.
It's funny, because it's almost like marrying your first girlfriend in a way. So that you guys took that from just learning how to play all the way out into playing into clubs and everything.
It was quite literally just learning as we went. And the singing stuff I'd always known from like my mom, because I would just kind of emulate what she was doing, only put more screaming into it.
So you had music your mom played music, you had music in the background, so that influenced you. But really, what infected you was Denny.
Yeah, Denny.
That's
Denny was
rock. That
he was
bringing and introducing you to that world. Yeah,
he was the one that showed me, hey, it doesn't have to be all hippies.
Mm.
There's a whole other world. Crystal Gale's fine.
Hey,
but
it's like, yeah, you see those hippies right there? Look to the left a little bit. See those bikers?
I think these
yeah.
guys. But like my mom, though, she even had friends like from Albany, whose
Albany.
her husband was a biker.
Yeah.
But he was the one that had like Molly Hatchet playing in the background, and he had. Every time I think back to that era, I always hear
Flirting with
"You
Disaster.
go back, Jack.
Oh,
do
Steely
it
Dan.
again." Yeah, he always had that playing in the background, so I would hear that, and I would see like big pot-bellied dude with a big beard walking through the house, and just like, and I was like, I heard stories that he beats people up. He beats people up a lot, but he was like the nicest guy. But I knew that there was
Don't beat kids.
there was that side of the world, but that side of the world scared me
Right.
because I thought that was just a world of violence and scariness,
Right.
kind of cool music. Yeah, it wasn't until like later on that Chris left the band. The bass player left the band to go to the university, become some kind of engineer, and a super smart guy. And then we brought in Johnny Rincon, who we knew from school, because Johnny in school, he can play guitar, he can sing, he writes all of his own stuff. He's everything. And then it was like he would come in and he completely changed our dynamic, going out into a different direction now,
Right.
to where we're going to be a little less silly and a little more straightforward.
So was he bringing him into the band? Did it just change the trajectory? Was that what kind of?
It was.
So, yeah.
It was shaving off all the bad parts, focusing in on all the good parts, and exploiting those and getting those out there, and finding out that you can actually have rhythm and heavy kind of combined. At the time, we're also, because Tyke was playing bass, but Tyke didn't want to do bass. He wanted to go back to guitar because that's where Tyke liked to go, because Tyke likes to shred.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so we had tried out a couple of people. We had one like girl that came in, and she had just this beautiful bass guitar. It was like all wood grain, like all gold, and it looked really nice. And she played fine. It was like having your sister in the band. It was just a really, we're trying to be up there and talking about, you're getting with the women, and this is our sister. There's our sister on the bass. Yeah. But yeah, we kind of got rid of her.
So after Taxi Cab Floors kind of just dissipated, like all bands have a tendency to do, sometimes they come back.
Yeah.
But you got to bury your own, right?
After the Taxi Cab Floors kind of dissolved away, I kind of wasn't talking to them for a little while, because it was like one of those things where they felt that I wasn't living up to their future goals of what they wanted to do. I reminded them that I started this band. It was one of those total prima donna. I started this thing. I built it up from the ground. And
How
it's like,
dare you?
In fact, you were a
Umbridge.
in fact, you were a founding member.
Yes, I was one of the two individuals that started the whole thing and brought everything.
The
everybody
Central
else
High
back in.
School. Right?
But it kind of dissipated. That was when I was back from Prineville. We had been trying to work on things. I don't really know if Prineville killed it or not. It was going to run its course.
Right.
It was going to run its course and go into the ground. But I remember Henry's Child was still playing out a whole bunch. So was Floater. I was living on my own, and my roommate Scott and we attended every Floater show, every Henry's Child show that we could find. We even attended the Henry's Child soiree that was out in Cresswell, out at the house.
My house, yeah.
Out at the house. And I remember somebody was going to jump off the roof.
Oh,
into
that was
the hot tub.
was at Jeff's girlfriend's house.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we almost got.
And it was Jeff that was going to jump off the roof into
we
the hot
almost
tub.
got a ticket on the way there trying to find the place. When we found the place, it was Henry's Child's playing on the really nice back deck, the multi-layered back deck, and that was the first time you guys had played one song that I'd never heard before, that I go, this could be the song that takes over my I Will addiction, because it was just a song that was very big and stomp. It quite literally made my foot stomp around, and I realized that was what Andrew was doing. He was out there, and he's just stomping everywhere, and I go, it makes you just want to fucking stomp. And then we never ever got to hear that song again. But I remember the night, kind of like the show just slowly, it didn't come to a stop.
Yeah.
It just kind of little soft jams off to the side kind of thing. And then finally everybody disappeared except for Riley and a bunch of I can't even call him Jeff. I got to call him Riley. Everybody's outside. And he got up on the roof, and he's like, I jump in the hot tub. And I go, it's not really, it was like jumping from there to like, what is that? Like about 6 feet?
Yeah.
But still, that's fiberglass, and your feet are going to go straight through.
And he was drunk.
And he was super drunk. Yep. He was going to jump into the hot tub. And all the rest of you guys, where were you? Scott and I were going to leave. You're all in the living room. It's dark, and you're all watching Eraserhead. I think you guys were watching Eraserhead. You were all watching some movie. I just remember I like look over. Andrew was like sitting in the middle, but he was just transfixed on the TV because it was something he really enjoyed the thing. And I go like, we're taking off. And he just kind of went, what? Oh, all right. Thanks for coming. And then just right back into the show. And it was just like, I just remember it was funny. It was like, that's how you guys were winding down.
Yeah.
Not by partying with everybody. Everybody else was just all together and you guys were watching a movie. And I was just going like, rockers. Yeah, after that, it was just Scott and I attending local shows. And that was all the music that I was really getting into at the time. I still had the other stuff that I would listen to a little bit on the radio, but I had pretty much given up on all that other stuff. Now it was just all about local music. It was like people go like, hey, have you heard that new Tone Loc song? And it's like, fuck mainstream music. Have you guys listened to this band right here? Just any band that I had just seen, and they just had a CD.
Yeah.
They had just put out a CD. It's like, you haven't lived until you've listened to Sun Tribe. And it's like, what? What's Sun Tribe? And it's like, whatever, loser. And then I kind of became kind of just like entitled. I was just like,
You're a local music snob.
I hope none of you guys get into my music, because if you do, then I'm going to have to go find something else. But yeah, that was how I got into like all the local music. I didn't get into any other bands after that until years later. I just basically sang to my steering wheel as I drove around town. But
they're all there. Everyone's all, there goes that guy again.
Mm-hmm. I just like
Crazy
every now
guy.
and then I'd see him. I ran into like Riley.
But in the
at
meantime, you got
some
married
show. Yeah, I got married.
to Amber, and
I got married to Amber.
because the funny thing is like
Amber got to come to.
she was at the Testament show for sure, but she was younger, and because she was with you a lot, and I remember it was you and Scott, and all of a sudden it was you and Amber,
Yep.
but Amber couldn't get in because she was under 21.
She got to go to quite a few of the
Well Hall shows, and things
the
like that.
Henry's Child moment shows. She got to go into a lot of those. I think she got to go to the last one that Andrew was at that one bar where is it Jace? He pulled out his dick on stage
Yep.
and was showing off his piercings.
Yep, that's
And I
Jace.
just kept on going like, man, that is a lot of metal on a penis.
Your dick is
I just
metal.
go like, I was like, that just seems so painful. She was there at the Wild Duck show when you guys had the TV cross
Oh, with Rex,
with
yeah,
Rex. She was there at the Testament show when you guys played Testament. I remember all the people in the place were not happy with you guys being out there. And she had had a few drinks, and she was like yelling at these guys. She was yelling at this one guy particularly, just going like, how dare you? Do you know who these guys are? Blah. Because they're all going like, we want Testament. We want Testament. And then you guys came in with your heavier stuff, and it completely changed the audience's attitude, where the audience is just like, boo, hatred. poop. You guys are poop. And then you guys played the heavy stuff. And then they're like, we were wrong. You guys rock. Yay. And my wife was just like right up there. And she's just like, she's your guys' cheerleader. She's just like, yeah, see you fuckers. But yeah, that was when my wife got to shake hands with Chuck Billy. And he gave her a pick. And he wished her a happy birthday. And I was his biggest fan.
You're like,
I was so jealous.
unfair.
She was at the one show at Tommy John's with
Andy Macon.
Andy Macon.
Yep.
And
Our one show. Yeah. It's funny because how we got back together again, we had started Attack Ships on Fire, and then me and Tom had decided that we didn't really want to do this anymore, and so we just kind of packaged everything up and left at the doorstop, went our own way. But we'd gotten together with Doug again and said, hey, I called Doug out of the blue because remember Doug had all kinds of medical issues, and I said, hey, what do you think about playing again? But let's do something more along what we like to do. Because we'd missed it. We missed the thing with Attack. We liked doing Attack Ships on Fire, but it was not pushing our musicality whatsoever. That's part of bands, huh? It's like the weird thing about bands is like it's almost always, there's exceptions to the rule, but almost always it's a bunch of people you don't know and have never met before in your life going to be thrown into a very intimate experience with each other and opening your and bearing your soul and being creative and everything else. And sometimes that doesn't mesh, but it's a strange experience. And a lot of people don't ever, I mean, how many times you're going to be in a van with people you only met 6 months ago and you're going to be touring around and you're going to be living with these people. It's an interesting scenario. So of course we were in communication a little bit back and forth.
It was because of the dawn of social media.
Yeah.
It helped find all those people that we had lost contact with, and that was how you got in contact with me.
On
and I remember
MySpace.
Yep.
But the funny thing about it is I went to your profile on MySpace and you'd put up a video of you singing Roadhouse Blues, like at a bar, karaoke or something else.
Yeah.
And
that was at the Westside.
Yeah,
that was at the Westside.
You blew my mind. And why you blew my mind was because in Taxi Cab Floors, you didn't sing. You did a very old school James Hetfield kind of, a lot of screaming. And
it was what was required of my position in Taxi Cab Floors was to maintain that metal push.
Yeah.
No fluffy singing, no softness,
because
nothing like that.
That's not metal.
Yeah, and I was just like, and that's what I always liked.
Yeah.
I always liked singing because I grew up listening to James Taylor and
but
John
we never
Denver.
heard you do that.
A whole lot of I didn't get a whole lot of metal guys until later on. The closest thing to metal that I had at the time was Kiss,
right?
And they sang, sang.
But they're not.
I mean,
they're
they
not
had
heavy
harmonies.
They're not metal. That's rock.
No.
So you know what? So I see you singing Roadhouse Blues, and my mind is blown. And I got a hold of Thom, and I said, "Do you remember Brian Forster?" And Thom probably sort of kind of remembered you because we knew you before we knew Thom, which is kind of interesting. And I said, hey, I want to contact him, see if you would be interested in doing this project. And I contacted you, and about 30 seconds later, he said, yes! We got together in a trailer that Doug had on a piece of property. On Yo-Ye's land, which that's a whole story in itself.
Which is in Salem.
In Salem, yeah.
Which is in Salem.
So it's kind of part and parcel how we even wound up in Salem in the first place, which where we're sitting right now. But I got a hold of you. You came in. It was me, you, Doug, and Thom, and we got together. They all clicked, and we decided to form First Leap.
I remember our first couple of songs that we did was like, hey, what can you do? And
right.
I'd go like, play any Henry's Child song.
Right.
And I will sing most of the lyrics because you know me.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I can sing the fuck out of most of the lyrics. Not all of them, but most of them I can nail it. But yeah, that kind of shocked me when we first pulled up to the studio. And you people out there can't see it, but my fingers are up right now with my air quoting.
He's quoting the shit out of the air right now.
I'm quoting the shit out of the studio. I saw a big, huge metal building, which is like an office garage kind of place. I thought, okay, we're playing in there. Nope.
It's a murder barn.
That semi-truck trailer right over there with the makeshift stairs, the rickety death stairs going up to it. That is where we are going into. And we went in there, and it was very, very, very intimate. I mean, if you're the kind of person that wants to explore the space, you don't get it here. Everybody is crammed
8
together.
feet wide and 27 inches. I mean, 27 feet long. Well, that would have been really small.
27 inches.
8 by 27 is what it was. So, yeah.
All I remember was
With Doug's drums in there, which took up, half.
Rich was, I think you were down on the end. Doug's drums took up everything. And if anybody has seen Doug's old drum kit, the orange drum kit, it's very, very big. I was pretty much either right in front of these drums or right off to the side. And then Thom had to suffer also by being on the other side of these big drums. And when Doug gets going, he beats the shit out of that stuff. And he's just smashing those cymbals, and it's just right in your face. And you think that it's loud when you're in the audience. But, man, when you're in an enclosed space and it's right there, and every time he just hits it, it's so painful.
So at that moment, did that little gene in the back of your head get clicked on again and went, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Live music.
Well, it was the classic thing. It's like take individuals, separate them from everything else, put them in this heated room, and
see how well you do in the box.
Just have them just start playing.
And it wasn't long after starting to play in the trailer that we immediately went in and cut 4 songs
with Shane, yeah.
With Shane in his garage to play, do you remember? The Iris Festival.
That was our first show.
The Iris Festival.
Which was our first show.
I just thought it was kind of good because we nailed down 4 songs enough to the point that we went to Shane.
Yeah. Shane Hall.
Yeah. And we went to his house. And we were in his garage, his little studio thing. It was cold. I remember I was wearing a scarf around my throat because I thought that would help keep it warm. But we got all those put down onto our first makeshift EP.
Yeah,
so we had the 4 songs. Then that was when I don't know who was the one that found the Iris Festival. But that was our first show was playing.
It was
at
probably
the
Doug, because I
Festival.
think Doug was living in Kaiser at the time, and the Irish Festival was in Kaiser. But we used that as our entry to get into the Irish Festival.
And it was one of those things where it was it's not just a show. This is a competition. This is like a battle of the bands,
which we didn't really know at the time.
No,
we
we
were
didn't.
playing it until it was the very
and so
end.
it was if you win, you would win $200. Now, mind you, $200
Right.
gift certificate to the music store. Right. Not like pulling out cash, but
so did we win?
Oh yeah, we won that one. Yeah, because I remember we were playing against bands that would kind of just take over the market.
Yeah,
just pure metal, the whole Slipknot kind of, and those are bands that I love. I love those, but. You can only put so much pepper in the soup before it becomes pepper soup.
Well,
There's
sure.
too much of that out there, but
well, and we also played on the fact that 3 guys from Henry's Child had started a band. We have this guy who was this new guy,
and we told the
for
guy
us.
that introduced us not to say that.
Right.
And
was
they-
what
First thing he said.
And you know what? They ended up
This is
doing it
Henry's
anyway. We won the competition. We then
Yeah.
go on to play just a bunch.
Yeah.
Even at the office, I have a whole wall that's just First Sleep.
Yeah.
First Sleep, I mean, we played Portland. We played Eugene. We played Salem. Just a bunch all around for a very brief period of time. I think it was a little bit after the record, Hours in Between. Colt Williams,
yeah,
played
from Northwest
played
Royale.
from Northwest Royale, and now Sweater for an Astronaut played with us too.
Yep.
But talk a little bit about recording that album, The Hours in Between. And we went into great detail in Jarrett's in episode 20, where Jarrett was talking about living in LA, and there was us kind of driving down there and doing it. I mean, at the time we were practicing at your father-in-law's place.
Yeah, we had the trailer parked off to the side of his house for the longest time.
Ironically, in the same trailer, just in a different location.
Right.
We had to move from our previous owner's property
Because
and
he
then we moved it
demanded
over.
more beer for rent.
Yeah, we literally paid case a person, or half rack a person of beer. For the recording session was done. A good majority of it was done actually in the trailer. We kept it very ad hoc, and when I say that, we kept it very cheap. We kept it as cheap as we could.
So you're right. We recorded a lot of the skeletons of the songs in the trailer, and then Jarrett gets them back home and goes, "Dude, none of this is usable.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
We need
that's
to go
right.
back-
Yeah,
we need to go back and do it again." So we rented Instep in McMinnville.
yeah, for the drums. Remember
recorded
that?
all the
That's right.
drums.
Yeah.
Used what we had as a skeleton tracks from the trailer. Recorded all the drums there, and so Doug was done in like 3 days, and then all of us individually went down. So you're right. So you flew down to Sacramento,
And then drove the rest of the way.
drove with
Picked him up.
Rich.
Yeah.
I did the
Dodge
same thing.
tumbleweeds.
But I did the same thing, but I didn't fly. I drove.
Yeah.
So I think a week after yours,
drive.
I drove Emma down, dropped off her relatives
Near Sacramento.
near Sacramento, drove all the way down with Rich, did like a bunch of bass lines, and
Yeah, we played.
soon the
in
album was born.
That little studio we stayed at Jarrett's, and it was funny because we were on a timeline because my
Yeah.
ticket was like in 2 days. You
In
better.
Sacramento. We're in
Yeah.
Santa Monica at this time.
Yeah, we're in Santa Monica, and then we recorded all the vocals,
Yep.
and the whole idea was like maybe a little bit of guitar, but the primary focus was get the vocals down as quickly as possible. And I mean, we were doing full night. It's like get up super early in the morning, get down to the studio. We're in the studio, long session, just going.
All day.
All the vocals, all the backing vocals, trying to come up with the remainder of Hours in Between, which was the title track to the album. We didn't even really have Hours in Between done. We didn't even have, I don't think we had all the lyric stuff done, or we didn't really have it fully formed. So like right there, we had to figure out how to put it together. We put it together. We literally, like, Jarrett sat there looking at his watch, just going like, okay, that's good enough. Grab your stuff, say goodbye to Rich. And he hopped me in his car. He drove me straight over to LAX.
Yep.
I got on the plane, flew back, and then the following week, or not the following week, was it the following week? But when
it was pretty close. I mean, I drove down and did some bass
You
lines
drove
down in
down,
Santa Monica.
you did your
Yeah,
stuff.
in the interim, I believe I just stayed and did guitars because I drove back when it was with my mom.
Probably. I mean, it wasn't. So we didn't really set out to do it this way.
No.
We had banked a lot on what we had recorded at the trailer, and there was a
Yeah.
lot of energy and effort put into it, and we just couldn't do it. But what resulted was the Hours in Between,
Yeah.
which we were still playing out quite a bit.
Yeah.
We ended up selling a bunch of that record, and that was kind of right before distribution started going digital.
Yeah.
Of those, I thought it would be cool to play a song, and I feel like a lost song about that, which is Angels in the Ether.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that song?
So with that one, it was that would be the eye opener song for all of our heavier stuff that we had out there. It's just like we've got a softer side, but don't worry, you'll really like this. And it was kind of that whole idea at the time when Rich was saying, I'm really into space stuff. And when he said space stuff, I go, I kind of understand what you mean. You know, just the thought of space and everything else, and my mind is like rushing back to like Space 1999 and just Asimov and everything all combined together, and it's like just talking about that. And so the concept of kind of giving, I don't know if you'd really call it a life to an inanimate object, a satellite, the satellite that's up in space, and then just its really sad, tragic fall to Earth. And it's kind of like trying to make somebody cry when a robot dies in a movie. It's like, can we get you to actually feel emotion?
Oh, they'll
for
cry.
a machine. And the great thing about it was it does have its pickup spot to it where it starts to boogie, but then it always comes back and it's very quiet. very melodic.
In the verse part, listen to the bass line and how it interacts with the guitar. And this was one thing that we had sort of let go of in Attack Ships on Fire, and we're so proud of coming back, was the bass interaction with the guitar,
Right.
specifically on this song. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's go ahead and spin it. Angels in the Ether from First Sleep.
Crashing satellites, burning in Earth's orbit, casting down a brilliant light on the weak and fearless. We are watching over you, angels in the ether, catching memories on flight, drifting into slumber. Sky divides as we make our way through the dark of night towards the light of day. Contrail footsteps follow us, washed away in the jet stream. We are touching down now, celestial children at play, playing human for a day. And you watch us fall. Can we be saved? The eyes go blind from the light as the soul gives way. Fire in the sky, we will break away. Gravity has lost its grip as we burn away. Trapped in an endless view, atmosphere can't hold us. Fading slowly now, soon the soul will leave us. The sky divides as we make our way. Turn us once again to our fall from grace. Our blissful fall from grace. Return us to our gossamer rise and fall.
One thing about that song is I think it was the first time that we really started tying in a little bit of what we'd done with Henry's Child into First Sleep. And at the time, of course, Henry's Child was dead and buried. We didn't know that it had a virus and it was really not quite dead. From that point, Jarrett had decided to move back up, and we had invited him into the band, and he said, yeah. He said yes to the dress. There's no way we were going to stay in that trailer with the gear that Jarrett had, and we had decided beforehand that when Jarrett had come up, that we were going to find another building and build a studio. Mm-hmm. And what did we do?
Found our current location it really suited our size needs and cost wise. Thankful to Jarrett and especially Jarrett's dad with their background knowledge on how to, because with us it would have probably still looked the exact same way as it was before. It's like, it'd be great if we had a window right there, but I don't really know how to frame a window, or it'll just be a big nasty hole. But they turned this place into what it is now. It's beautiful. I mean, aesthetically it's beautiful when you come in here. Work wise, it worked perfectly for us. It just works, and I think that just kind of helped get the creative juices going to start really working on new material.
I think it made it real.
Yeah.
You know, it just made everything feel like we're in it for the long run.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna sink some money into this. We've got a home. Everybody wants to do what we as we went along, and the whole name change thing I think throws people a little bit, but it was because there was just, first of all, in this modern age with social media and how you promote yourself is different than it used to be. We were having trouble with the name First Sleep because, number one, firstsleep.com was taken.
Yeah.
The guy decided to park it, and he wasn't going to give it away for, peanuts. And the fact that every time you told somebody the name of your band, they would have you repeat it, which is good and bad, but it just became problematic. So we had a little powwow and decided, let's come up with a name that nobody's going to sit on. If you punch in 7 Second Circle, it's going to be the first thing that comes up is going to be us.
And that was the great thing, because it was Thom at the time kind of really broadening our minds of like, you can't really think about it the band way. You have to think about it the technological way of the way the world sees things now anymore. It's like, if you Google search something, you want to be on the first page. You want to be up on the top. You don't want to have to go 5 pages down before you come across First Sleep / MySpace, blah, blah, blah. Phonetically, also, it comes out of your mouth really easily.
7 Second Circle rolls much easier than First Sleep. Look, we're artistic, we're creative and everything else, and it's like you think of your names, you think you're clever or whatever, everything else. 7 Second Circle doesn't mean anything. First Sleep had a nod back to Solaris, and that's where that came from.
It's because it's a Clifford Martinez song, too, from the soundtrack of Solaris.
Exactly. So, it was really, in all honesty, it was along the lines of Henry's Child. It's like, where does Henry's Child come from, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking in kind of an old school way.
It also gave us that cool way of like, don't just write 7 Second Circle, just do the 7, the S, and the C. I go, there you go. That's classic band thing. It's
and you're
a cool way
right,
to acronym your band.
And you're right, Brian. We did vet it really, really hard. And I remember having the checklist and going through. There was one other that came really close. This is the first time I've ever told this publicly. 7 Second Circle was almost called The Earth Below.
Right.
I had bought the domain name because it was available. It was available on like YouTube, that new thing called Facebook back then, and Twitter, of course, has been around forever. So that's how we did it. So First Sleep became 7 Second Circle.
Yeah. Well, basically, there's a tiny little, I'm going to say a tiny little change. It's a big change because from First Sleep to 7 Second Circle, Jarrett is part of 7 Second Circle. Jarrett was not part of First Sleep. He recorded our album in hours in between, and that culminated into Jarrett coming into the band. So there's a tie there, and of course we've known Jarrett forever, and Jarrett's part of Henry's Child. So, yeah. So, yes, we are a little tiny. Basically, I've said this before, it's like 7 Second Circle is Henry's Child with Brian Forster. Of course, we don't do the same music, but it's the same band with a different vocalist. From there, once Jarrett came into the band, we just sat down and we decided we wanted to be a little bit more concise in what our approach was toward what we wanted to do.
We really wanted to hone in on how our songs were going to be created and recorded and put out there, and that's one of the great things about Jarrett is that Jarrett will sell no wine before it's time. Right. He is quite the taskmaster when it comes to achieving that sound that you yourself will be happy with in the long run. It's like you'll sit there and go, oh, he he just made me do it over and
You're
over
like,
and over.
"No,
and
no,
it's like
no, why,
you
why?"
get so
I get it.
at times you just get so aggravated and you're just like, God. But then when you hear the finalized product over what you had done before, you go, thank you. That is exactly what we were looking for. And that's kind of what's great about having this environment that we have, that we can really work on getting exactly what we want to put out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because just like Stephen Wilson said, this is the music industry. This is not the service industry. We aren't going out there. We want to make music that other people are going to love, but we want to put out music that we love as well, that you guys will
Yeah, because he
love.
said if you don't like it, why would you expect anybody else to like it? You know, and so we first cater it ourselves.
Yep.
And if other people like it, that, again, like I said earlier, that's just a bonus. And from that, we worked and worked and worked and worked and worked on Divide for years and years and years to get what we wanted. And I'm as proud of that as anything I've ever been in my. It's, you know, it could be my firstborn child. I am super proud of what we did there. We reached heights creatively that I did not know that we could reach.
Oh, yeah.
And it's daunting, you know. But you look back at it, it's like, look what we did, you know.
Especially when we would all get together. There was that one night that started off in this room, which is basically the living room, and then wound up in the recording room where Jarrett usually is, which is the next room over from us. It was you, me, Thom, and Jarrett, and some couple of bottles of wine, because I think that was all that we had. And we were all just sitting down and we were just going like, we need to work on stuff. And I think that was when we created Surface. And I think we created like 2 songs that evening, because we, you know, it's when inspiration strikes.
Right.
You hold on to it and you just ride that out until it dies off. And we created like just 2 songs right there, and we were just flabbergasted, just going like, holy crap, if we could just do this every single time,
Right.
maybe alcohol is the key. And it's like,
Well,
you know,
so the clear distinction, and this is going to be a really, really important one, is unlike First Sleep, where we would just kind of get together, play some songs, and then go out and play a bunch. 7 Second Circle literally lived in the studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't play one
didn't go
single
out at
show
all.
No.
until the record was done
Right.
and we had started promoting it online.
And
Absolutely.
that took off. Like,
It's just a different, but to really have somebody be with, the difference between going in and bouncing off a bunch of ideas off of each other into walking into something that's a little more open and free, and you know, time wasn't this constraint. We really truly did write things sort of on the fly and then change them up, and then of those we would choose the best. Not just the best take,
Sure.
but the best version of whatever we were doing. I mean, the clear one that pops out to me was, for example, the Fretless on Ladder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we had probably, I don't know, man, 7 different little outro things that we had tried, and Jarrett sort of pieced it together and made this just beautiful, beautiful song out of it.
yeah. And I still have like all the old recordings of
Yeah, it's
all the
interesting.
songs, and it's amazing how the songs have transformed and become what they are now, and how they kind of borrowed ideas from other songs that were added in and helped it kind of go the way it was.
That's a big part of it. Plus, we had Jarrett as
Yeah.
personnel, so he moved his whole entire LA operation up here because he was working virtually, so he could, which is really great. But going back to Divide, I mean,
Yeah.
we spent, I don't know, close to 5 years on that record.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are whole entire discographies of bands that are less than what we spent on that record as far as time goes. Is there any particular song on the Divide record that you think sums up 7 Second Circle?
I think for what we were going for with the general idea of the album, and kind of the idea was, for me, is Nothing Less Than Nothing.
Right.
Because it's a
Me
big
too.
magnum opus song, and it was kind of like when Rich first showed us the opening part. He like pulls out his acoustic guitar and he was playing that for us, and we were just going like, I really, really, really like that a lot. That's amazing. And then he says, hold on. which way do you think we're going to go? Are we going to go straight, left, or right? I don't know. And that's the great thing about Rich is Rich takes you in the complete opposite direction you think that you're going to go. And then he takes us into, this is where the heavy part comes in. It's like, what heavy part? Then there's a whole huge heavy part. And if you've heard Nothing Less Than Nothing, that song has so many movements in it. There are so many parts to it.
But at the same time, Brian, they're not machinations of different songs.
No, this was one song.
It's like a Subway sandwich, but it's got like everything in the middle.
Can I get
the two
everything?
buns.
Tom,
Yes, you
I'm going
can.
to take your fast food analogy and I'm going to trump you. It's like a 7-layer burrito.
It is. It is.
Ooh, sour cream. Oh, the idea was to make something congruent. You don't get bored. There's not a lot of noodly stuff going on, and everything is thematic and comes back to some. You're going someplace. It's a trip. It's from point A to point B. You're not just wandering around aimlessly.
It's the one song that if somebody said, "I don't think you guys are a prog rock band," I'd be like, "Oh, really?" Let me just put this track on for you. Go ahead and sit down. This is about 13 minutes. So
Yep.
I go, we have our trademark really long song, multiple layers to it. And just like you said, this was not like a mashup of, take some of the, no, this was all beginning to end, exactly the way it was conceived and put out there. That's like the one that I think summed up what we were really trying to do, is just like make music that literally takes you on a journey. When you listen to it, you can kind of see it in your head and it takes you away.
Be honest with you, my friend. I've been waiting a long time to play this song on the podcast, and we waited for you.
Yeah.
So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing Less Than Nothing.
You know, as a songwriter, I don't think this happens very often. But it happened to me with this song, where you could put down the pen and walk away and go, if that's the last thing I ever did, I could be satisfied. Granted, that's not going to be the last thing we ever do, because we're writing ideas and starting on something now, but we feel that we need to change the delivery system or the format of how we do it. We can't spend 5 years and just hunker away and do a concept album this time around.
Well, it's also an ever-changing landscape, and I know we've told this story in the past about 7 Second Circle pressing the record just based off of a distribution house in Germany that wanted it, which is a great story.
Right.
The method has changed, and that old method, if we can't go out there and support it playing shows, we still want to be able to deliver it. And one of the things that's very cool is the 7 Second Circle website, where it's all kind of integrated together. Most of the music is available on Bandcamp. So there's a singular funnel. If somebody really, really wants to be a part of it, they can be a part of it. And so moving forward, we're thinking about possibly changing that direction to be a little bit more of a direct distribution.
Right.
And I just remembered that we actually had to press CDs because the prog groups that we were sending out stuff, it was like Thom was like, "Look, we've got this all digital for you. We can send you a link and a code to be able to get it." And they said, "We want something tangible that we can put our hands on." As Thom was trying to take those steps forward to appease the masses the way that they currently want it,
Right.
we still have the people who they want the old-fashioned style of, and it was fine. I like to have a CD too, but
Sure.
it's much easier to pick up your phone and go,
Well, it's
download, got it.
It was a little force of the trees with us, is what it was.
Yeah.
In our country, it's not that big of a deal. In the United States, people aren't that interested in, at the time. I'm gonna retract that a little bit. At the time, people were not as interested of having a physical version of their music. They were perfectly fine with putting it on their phone or whatever. So we figured, well, this is the new way. We're going to go that route. So we start, getting written up in different zines and, sites of prog rock sites for the album, and they start wanting physical copies, and we're like, we don't have any.
In their broken English that
Right.
was translated over to us, it's like, wait, did they like it?
Well,
or
it was-
did they not like it?
It was Germany that did it, because I don't remember exactly. Thom could interject of how many they wanted, but and they would prepay CDs. We're talking about, and actually having them prepay on the CDs was what gave us the finance to actually go ahead and have CDs printed. Actually, we had to come up with it. We didn't have the
So
artwork or
okay,
anything,
so it sounds like I need to interject here real quick.
Okay.
So this was like any good real estate or land developer. I basically used other people's money to get the album pressed. There was a German company named Just for Kicks Music. They had read one of the really positive reviews that we had on a big one, like Progarchy or something like
Yeah.
that. Could get a lot of traffic. It was a 9.7 out of 10 that they had
Yeah.
given us. So with Sight Unseen, they go, we want 200 copies of this. And basically went back and forth with them and was able to get the price for those 200 allowed us to be able to press 1,000 copies. So we got basically 800 copies left over that were essentially left over from the money that they had given us.
Right.
And they prepaid it. You're absolutely right. They prepaid it. They sent it to my PayPal account with one click. I printed out the postage, took it all to the post office, sent it off, and we had 800 copies left over. It's a beautiful thing.
So all those people who wanted a physical copy that we could put our doodle marks on for them at the show, because you still have those people at shows that are like, "Where's your CD?
Well, I think
Silly.
I
Where's
think
your phone?
Right.
Download it."
People like to come away at shows with something, merch or whatever. But also, we've in the meantime, we've sold the album to different. I think we've sold to every continent right now, haven't we?
We have, yep.
Yeah. I think South Africa was the one that was like, we hit Africa, woo!
And there was that guy from Canada who just,
Oh yeah,
God,
he wanted to move in.
He wrote the most wonderful reviews. I mean, like full page reviews on each song, and
Yeah.
you know that he took such pride in each one, and he he gave entire paragraphs to each member of the band and really broke down what they had done and kind of gave his negative reviews, but a negative in a Canadian way, which is happy. But yeah,
It's better than anything down here. Yes,
was
and so
nice.
for sure I'm going to tag 7 Second Circle in this. So I am going to tag Duke, and I am
yeah.
going to tag Closet Concerts. Honestly, he's got a big Twitter presence.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for doing that, Duke. You were very, very awesome.
When you do a type of music that you don't know what it is, and all of a sudden you find out that there is a genre around what you're doing, and it's a very warm and welcoming and huge, very nerdy, intellectual group of people that will go through your stuff with a fine-tooth comb, and very warm about everything. It's liberating. We were very DIY in the whole back, in the Henry's Child days, and because we never knew where we landed with.
so it's quite literally like being back in the 90s, going out to do shows at the venues or the bars, and all the people that you meet there becoming like friends. Only now it's making friends around the world, like virtual friends.
Right, exactly.
Well, thanks for coming out, Brian, and
no problem.
sharing your Sunday down at the studio and talking to us about music.
Yee-hoo.
Well, we'll do this again, of course, because this isn't the end of our story.
No.
This is it's a blossoming thing. It's going to continue on.
What, us sitting there talking about ourselves?
Oh, we could. No, we don't never.
We do that
never
every week.
That's unheard of. No.
Thanks, Brian.
No problem.
Well,